It all started innocently enough. I'd moved into my cozy suburban home less than a year earlier. The street was lined with leafy trees and neatly trimmed lawns. And for the most part, my neighbors were respectful and friendly. I'd waved hello, helped carry in groceries, and even borrowed a cup of sugar once until that guy moved in across the street. Let's call him Brad. Brad was the kind of person who believed rules were suggestions. At 6'2" and wearing sunglasses in the shade, he had an air of overconfidence that practically announced, "I can park wherever I want." It started with one quick errand, 15 minutes, he said. Then another, half an hour, he claimed. By the end of the first week, I'd lost count of how many times I returned home to find his dusty silver sedan completely blocking my garage door. I'd knock on his door, say, "Hey man, mind moving your car?" and watch him saunter out, yawn, and pretend it wasn't his problem. Each time I asked politely, he'd flash that smirk and reply, "I'm just here for a bit." If a bit meant 1 hour, fine. 2 hours, annoying. 3. Borderline criminal, for hours. The point of no return. By the 5th time, I was seething. After all, it wasn't just an inconvenience. It cost me time, patience, and sometimes I'd be forced to circle the block twice while searching for street parking. I started with passive-aggressive notes slipped under his windshield wiper. One more pointed than the last. "Dear neighbor, my driveway is not a parking spot. Please move your car. Friendly reminder. Blocking driveways is illegal. Consider this your final notice. Someone has to tow your car soon. Hope it's not you stranded at work." He ignored them all. Next, I tried a direct approach. I cornered him at the mailbox and said, "Your parking's gotta stop." He laughed and said, "Chill out." Not exactly neighborly, light bulb moment. Why not do what I should have done weeks ago? Call a tow truck. No warning, no note. Just cold, mechanical justice. The night of operation. Silver Sedan began like any other Wednesday. I'd just finished dinner and settled onto my porch with a cold beer, gazing at the streetlights flickering on as dusk set in. My spirits were calm to calm. I realized that patience was key. I didn't want to rush the plan. I wanted to savor. It's at precisely 8:12 p.m. Brad's car rolled up. He parked in front of my driveway, engine still humming. I recognized his cologne wafting through the open window, a sharp citrus scent that said, "I'm on a date tonight." I checked my watch, 8:13 p.m. Perfect. I waited 2 minutes, making sure he'd settled inside his house. Then I dialed the towing company I'd researched earlier that day. "Yes, I need a tow too for 23 Maple Street," I said, quietly confident. The dispatcher confirmed, "We'll be there in about 20 minutes. As soon as I hung up, I cracked open my second beer and leaned back. I watched the street, enjoying the way the fire engine red tow truck rolled in like an avenging chariot. The driver rolled down his window, walked over, snapped a professional gaze at the silver sedan. I saw the hydraulic arm descend, hooking onto the front bumper, and heard the satisfying clang of metal. Brad's window flew open just as the car began to lift. He leaped out in a crisp, button-down shirt and dark jeans, clearly dressed to impress. He staggered forward, eyes wide. Before he could shout, the tow truck operator grunted, "Sorry, pal, it's going with me." 45 minutes later, I was still on the porch, sipping my beer. A woman in a floral dress and heels wandered up the sidewalk, clutching a small clutch purse. Her breath caught when she saw the empty spot and the tow truck's rear lights disappearing around the corner. She hesitated, then knocked on Brad's door. He swung it open, hair perfectly styled, cologne still strong. He grinned until he realized something was off. His grin faltered, then collapsed. The woman blinked. He stammered, Yeah, come on in." She glanced past him, gave a polite smile, then asked, "Where's your car?" He tried to laugh it off. "Tow truck. Long story." But the woman's expression hardened. "You parked in front of someone's driveway," she repeated, incredulous. When he shrugged, she said, "Wow, that's trash." And with that, she turned and walked away, heels clicking purposefully on the pavement. I could hear Brad sputtering behind closed doors. I could almost see his confidence evaporate. Mission accomplished. In the days that followed, Brad didn't block my driveway again. I'd see him park at the far end of the block, cringing every time he pulled in. He never invited another date to his place either. No more last-minute invites or just pop over before dinner. His social life took a nosedive faster than his parking skills. Neighbors started noticing the change. Mrs. Alvarez across the street whispered, "Did you see him park way down by the stop sign?" Mr. Jenkins on the corner chuckled when I mentioned I'd had a tow truck handle the problem. "Finally taught him a lesson," he said. I, on the other hand, felt an unexpected twinge of guilt. Was this petty revenge or a necessary boundary? I realized it didn't matter. By standing up for myself, I'd set a precedent. Don't mess with someone else's property. Just when I thought the saga was over, I noticed something odd on social media a week later. Brad had posted about the worst date ever with a vague caption, "When your date leaves you for someone who tows cars." The comments were merciless. One friend wrote, "Bro, should have just moved your car." Another, "Plot twist. She's her own hero." I'll admit, I felt a surge of amusement seeing him cry foul online. But then I paused. Did I go too far, turning a personal annoyance into public spectacle? I reminded myself it wasn't public. He chose to broadcast it. Besides, the date was over before anyone knew, so I was more amused than ashamed. Months later, Brad still avoids parking in front of my house. Sometimes I see him hanging out on his porch, glancing down our street, as if expecting another surprise. The tow company called to thank me. Apparently, he'd racked up enough impound fees that they nearly had to get a repo service involved. As for that woman on the date, she never came back. Rumor in the neighborhood is she found a guy who actually opens his driveway and parks in his own garage. I like to imagine they're happily married, swapping stories about the guy who blocked driveways for fun. This story isn't just about towing a car. It's about standing up for yourself, setting boundaries, and reclaiming your space. We all have neighbors who push limits. The loud music at midnight, the dog that barks all day, the ball that lands in your yard. Sometimes a calm conversation works. Sometimes you need a firmer hand. If you're ever facing your own Brad, remember, you don't need to hoist them on their own petard. A simple tow, a clear message, and a bit of well-timed patience can do wonders. And who knows, you might just save an unsuspecting date from a lifetime of frustration. 2. So next time someone blocks your driveway, ask yourself, is it worth another polite knock, or is it time to call in the professionals and let the tow truck do the talking? Either way, you'll sleep better knowing you've taken control of your curb.